Hello, folks. Professor Gaida here, um, welcoming you once again to our class. And I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about the use of AI in the classroom, outside of the classroom, for any course that you're planning to take. As we all know, AI is and promises to bring some real innovations, comforts, and efficiencies to what we do. It will help us in a number of ways. I want to talk to you today about the ways in which it may not be so helpful, especially to students and people trying to use their brains in different situations. So, this is called The Trouble with AI, this little slideshow that I put together. And as you can see, this is a scene from, or a little still photo from The Matrix. And The Matrix, if you're not familiar with the film, is a film that deals with the possibility of AI actually taking over society, taking over the world, and controlling human beings. So that's why I've chosen it, and we'll talk about that a little further as we go. So this is the trouble with AI, or the importance of using your brain. Okay, what is the trouble with AI, you may ask? Well, AI functions well, so there are a lot of things that are not troublesome about it. Students can use ChatGPT for research, to summarize information, and even to write. And in some cases, this is a real benefit, especially I would say to summarize information um, and for conducting basic research. But it's the kind of research that you would you would get from an encyclopedia, essentially, which traditionally is kind of a starting point for academic research. It may be useful for references, but you're never going to cite an encyclopedia article or a Wikipedia article as an authoritative source, right? And there are reasons for that, because then generally the depth of the information and the degree to which the information is vetted or checked is not as great as in a well-researched, well-documented, and what's called a refereed source, where an independent panel of experts or a group of experts has looked at the material and said, okay, this is a well-researched piece. It is truthful, it is accurate, right? In an age when truth is often disputed and accuracy is often disputed, we kind of need those checks. Okay, so AI can do all these wonderful things, but does it mean it's a good idea that it does all these things for us? I am proposing that it is not necessarily a great idea. And you may ask, well, why not? Okay. So the major trouble with AI is that we need our brains to work. We need them to work well, right? In different situations. When AI will not do the job, when we will need what's called executive function, decision making, judgment skills, right? Um, so several studies have revealed that when we rely on AI, we actually lose the ability to think creatively, think critically, solve problems on our feet. And this is essentially the problem with relying on AI to do most of our work for us, right? Whether it's in school or on the job. And you might say, well, okay, so I lose the ability to do these things. So what? If machines can think for us, why do we need to think? It's a good question. And if you sit and think about that question for a while, you may come up with a lot of answers on your own. But I have a few as well. So we need to think for ourselves for a number of reasons, right? Um, Creativity and innovation, critical analysis and judgment, effective communication. And I would add to that socialization with one another. It's very important. Um, as you can see, when our society loses cohesiveness, when we start to be isolated from each other and not accountable for our opinions and our thoughts, we can fall very easily into um, discord, into, in some cases, violence, but more often just discord, isolation, a sense of being alienated, a sense of purposelessness, um, a sense that things are, we can't relate to other people. We are somehow being left out, or we are somehow um, right where other people, we're always right where other people are always wrong. So that effective communication piece is also very much a part of social cohesion. So very important. Number four, good research habits. So yes, AI can do some basic research for you and can find some sources, but oftentimes it will synthesize these sources in a way that is not terribly useful or even accurate. That's one problem. Another problem is when you do a traditional bit of research, you go through a research process, you go to a library, a database. Yes, you can hone in on the things that you were looking for, but you will also find things almost by accident. Right? You will stumble upon sources. You will link from one source to another source, not by accident, but because you happen to see this other source that looks interesting. So going through the process is very important for finding as much information and the best quality information that you can find. Now, the last bit of this is number five, confidence and self-esteem. If you allow machines to do your thinking for you and you lose that sharp ability to think, to be creative, to be critical, to solve problems, right, to address and solve problems, you start to wonder, well, okay, why do I need to, what's the use of me even working, right? Why does the world need me? Why do I need to work? And what's my purpose, right? Work is not everything, certainly, but it certainly gives us a sense of worth. It certainly gives us a part of our identity. And if you lose that, you lose something very important. So let's talk about these things one at a time. Creativity and innovation. So creativity involves original ideas, right? And original ideas are really only products of human thought. Machines can cull, gather human ideas and synthesize them, but they can't really create them. And so to think what you may think of as outside of the box, that requires a human brain. So human ideas, original ideas, are needed for innovation in most areas. If we're going to discover the next important thing, whether that be a medical breakthrough, whether it be some way to help ourselves predict, the weather. It could be literally anything, or just build a better mousetrap or any device, right? These require leaps of creativity that only the human brain are really, only the human brain is really capable of delivering. And so to stifle that creativity by relying on AI all the time is a really dangerous thing to do. Now, innovation mostly also, allows us to solve problems, yes, and also amuse ourselves, right? Creativity and innovation, and that's what we're talking about in creative writing and other similar courses, where it's not just that we're learning when we write creatively or that we're communicating with each other, but we are entertaining ourselves and others. We are telling stories, as an example. And these are the things that, while they might not be absolutely essential to life, are really important for the enjoyment of life. Okay, next, critical analysis and judgment. So AI can give you an answer that's technically correct, but isn't necessarily right, right? The right answer to a question involves considering the context, considering what the circumstances are, right? And that requires human judgment. It requires what we call executive function, right? The ability to kind of govern thoughts about the situation. Um, and you may, for example, if you get a quote unquote correct answer from AI, you may consider whether or not the information it's based on is up to date, whether or not it's relevant to a specific, again, situation, or whether or not it's ethical. So AI may say, well, the obvious solution to this is to shoot your friend. Not ethical, right? Or the obvious solution to this is to steal a technological idea and apply it here. Not ethical and probably not feasible or legal. So again, that critical analysis and judgment is very important. Also very important, for telling the truth from fiction. Okay, AI may give you a fact that it found in the vast sea of human thought and speech online, but a lot of that may be inaccurate, exaggerated, right, or downright false. So to retain your ability to determine what's true and what's not, especially in the environment we live in now, is incredibly important. It's not a skill you want to cede to AI. All right, effective communication. So the AI can write. We know that. ChatGPT and other chatbots can write and write reasonably well, but in a way that doesn't yet at least sound like a natural human voice. What makes a natural human voice? Well, a natural human voice involves the selection of words for certain situations and for certain audiences, right? And for certain purposes. Instead of this word, I chose that word because my audience are really knowledgeable about computer science or really knowledgeable about hospitality, and I don't need to explain certain terms. Or they're not very knowledgeable in one of those areas, and I need to break things down and use simpler language, right? What am I trying to achieve? Am I trying to just inform this audience, or am I trying to persuade them, convince them of something? That's going to affect the words and how I structure sentences, choice of words, sentences. These are all things that are part of communication and part of what AI can only do to a point because it can't really consider your specific situation and your specific circumstances. Okay. And the example I used here is writing an email to a colleague who has decades of experience, right? And I just used a similar example. So if you rely on AI, again, you may lose that ability to make judgments about language and about structure and about how to put a certain piece of communication together. Very, very important. And again, very, very important in terms of connecting with people. If you write someone an email and it has that kind of awareness of context and personal touch, you will actually connect with that person, make a connection. And it may give you a lead into talking to that person in person and even sort of deepening a bond that helps you do work, helps you create a partnership, right? And then, of course, strengthens the society of the workplace, the society of the neighborhood where you work or live. Very, very important things, especially now. Okay, productive research habits. So sources can differ in a lot of different ways. They can be more or less reliable, they can be more or less current, and they can again be built and written for different audiences and purposes. AI can synthesize these things, but it can't help you sort of evaluate a source, and it can't help you necessarily make creative leaps as you're looking at a source to, okay, what about a source that covers this related area? Let me go find that. AI may not do that for you and probably won't. So you still need that element of human control and judgment to do thorough and effective research and research that is accurate. Okay, confidence at work. So if you relied on another person to do your work for you, think about it this way. After a while, you would feel kind of bad about yourself. You'd be like, well, what am I really doing here? What's my role here? What's my purpose? If I don't actually contribute anything, what am I worth here? And that's true in any walk of your life, any part of your life. So when you lose that ability, you lose confidence in your ability to, meet any kind of challenge that requires work. Okay. And if that happens, then you can lose your sense of purpose and then you're kind of really in trouble. So consider again that that's an important area and that not relying on AI. In our case, that means mostly things like ChatGPT and chatbots. When you rely on those things, you really rob yourself of all of these skills, abilities, and benefits, right? And I would hate to see anyone go through life without the ability to do these things that we've just talked about. Okay? So the bottom line is that AI should serve human beings and not just its creators and not just itself, meaning, of course, its creators. So, um, again, it's likely to bring us great advances in certain areas that we wouldn't be able to achieve very quickly otherwise. But it's also likely, AI is, to eliminate jobs. And if you think about that, it will still be a technology that requires human intelligence to guide and govern it, but it won't, in some areas, it means that we won't need as many people to run a system. We'll just need the people at the top who are providing some guidance. So that's one reason to be wary of your AI use and to limit it and use it in certain ways. Another is that it is possible in the future that AI will achieve what's called singularity. That is the ability to essentially think for itself and make decisions which could affect all of us, right? Decisions about weaponry, decisions about government, decisions about allocating resources that could affect all of us. So, although that's a long shot, at least right now, it's something to be aware of. And if you ask yourself who benefits from AI, is it us necessarily if we let it do whatever, whatever we it can do, right? Are we all going to benefit from that, or are many of us, going to have our jobs, lost or changed in ways that we don't like? Um, and who benefits? Is it just the people who make the AI? Just the people who work in tech? Just the people at the top of the food chain? Is that the world you want to live in? And so these questions are both about AI are both pragmatic, immediate, and profound long term. And that's what I ask you to consider as we go into our semester of writing and thinking. All right. Thank you, folks.